Coming up on Talk is Cheap, we're talking about the Hertz 432 and 440. Which is better? Is 432 natural, or does 440 cause chaos in the brain? Stay tuned. You can even take a quiz later. Welcome to another episode of Talk is Cheap. We are live from Ohio and the studio. My name is Sharid Hall, and today we are talking about 432 and 440 hertz. Which one's better, if any? Presented by Jennifer, the lightworker lady.
The lightworker lady, who's also Jennifer Stanton. She joined me on the show before, and we talked about meditation. So very interesting conversation there. And Sharid, thank you for hosting the show today. This is great to have an off-site host for once.
Yeah, this is weird. New for Talk is Cheap.
Yeah, new for me too. Never hosted anything. So a little bit nervous, but also very excited. So.
Oh yeah, over on this end, we got Andrew Hohlfeld to my right. And
back for another episode.
Back again, back. And then we got Pete Halbleib, of course.
Welcome everybody. Yeah, we're four strong tonight. I'm looking forward to this episode. And so, yeah, great. What do you got for us?
So, well, before we do that, I got one more thing to say. Again, I've been saying this last couple episodes now. We do have a call-in number now. So if you want to get your voice heard on this show, call in. That's 256-510-5234. That's 256-510-K2D4. Leave your comments, messages, concerns, you're complaining, whatever you want to do. Keep it to 1 minute or less, and all standard phone rates apply. This number I got was in Alabama, so if it's going to cost you long distance, it'll be long distance. So yeah, that's all I got to say there. Back to you, Sharid.
All right, thanks, Dan. So the topic at hand, 432 hertz versus 440. Some say that 432 is a natural frequency and that it resonates with nature, and others seem to believe that 440 is, set into place to basically entrap the mind, and is an off frequency just a tad bit to where, it kind of controls the mind and emotions. And we'll get into on how all that came about.
Right, because this is like a big conspiracy here that, some people came in and they switched the frequency to make it feel like screw everything up in the body system. So I'm curious to see what you got here.
Absolutely. And well, first, what you have to understand is 432 hertz. What does that mean, right? What that means is 432 hertz means 432 vibrations per second. It's all based on the 1260 math system that the Mayans created a long time ago, or the Sumerians. My bad. I apologize. And so you got 432 vibrations or 440. Very minute difference right there. And what I want to kind of go through right now is kind of the time scale of how it came to be, right? Whether it's 432 or 440. And back in 1859, all right, it was actually set at 435 hertz, which was the first attempt to standardize the frequency, right? Everybody's playing instruments and everybody wants the same sound. So as things modernized, they tried to set a certain frequency, and they started at 435. And around the 1900s, it changed to 439, just a couple more vibrations higher. And it was only up until 1939s and the 1900s where things started to change, and they started really focusing on a standard concert pitch, right?
So people are just doing this because they didn't really know like what was official, like what it should be. They were just doing what they felt should be the hertz.
Right. A lot of ancient instruments, say Native American flutes or Tibetan bowls, they all have 432, the note inside, in their instrument. Like it played 432. It wasn't necessarily tuned to 432. That's where a lot of people, they get wrapped up in this conspiracy, like, oh, it's got to be tuned to 432. It's not necessarily just that number, because as you'll see, as I explain, a lot of numbers are involved and incorporated in this. Okay. So 1939 is when they actually changed it to 440 hertz. And supposedly the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and this Nazi guy, what was his name? Let's see here. Joseph Goebbels. Okay. Supposedly he was working on some things to where it would, if you put it at 440 hertz, it's a little off from the natural frequency, 432, that, say you got a hard metal song, your emotions would be trapped into that hard, aggressive, chaotic type moment. You know what I mean? And so they thought it would control you. So that's what happened at 1939 at a London conference. They set it to 440 in the Western world, and that's how it's been ever since.
And you were on here before, we're talking about George Van Tassel and how he made this dome thingy-me-rig, and that's a law about frequency and how it helps, keep the body in tune. So it's really, there's a lot to this when you dig into it.
Was that dome thing also like built around 432 frequency?
That's a good question.
Well,
do we know that?
That is a good question, and I believe we'll answer that later.
Oh,
okay,
all right.
That's what I was talking about, Dan. Don't spoil it.
Yeah, very good. And we're thinking along the same lines, though, so that's
Damn,
good.
see how that works?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and it all ties together. I mean, there's a lot of things that are hushed and pushed aside by this government or maybe Illuminati, however you want to look at it. Somebody's hindering this knowledge from getting into the masses. But with the internet and shows like this, I mean, it's available if you do the research and just keep an open mind. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to talk about now is we're going to go back. Forget the time scale. Forget how they started setting the certain frequencies. I want to talk about the famous mathematician Pythagoras, okay? And he felt that geometry was the key to nature, right? And he was intrigued by music. One day he sat down, he plucked a string, and it made a tone, okay? And then he realized that if he divided that string in half, it would play a tone twice as high, okay? So he came up with a system, right? He started with 1, which went to 27. No, don't ask me how he did his math. It went from 127 to 54 to 108, 216, and then 432. See, that number comes right into play now. Okay, but he didn't even see the number. It wasn't nothing special to him. Okay, so he started getting this table together, and I believe if you want to pull up the picture of the spiral, he created a table or a system known as the spiral of perfect fits. Okay, and that's how he created that, all with this math. He's a famous math guy. I'm not too strong in geometry, but he came up with this spiral, and that's how it went. And that's like the natural frequency. It's not based on ratio, nothing like that. It's based on pure geometry and math. No emphasis on 432, like I said. So Pythagoras got this geometry, and I kind of want to go through a little bit of the geometry and how he came to this conclusion. Okay, if you take the simple geometry shapes, you got a triangle, right? All right, you got 180 degrees. Circle and a square, 360. All right, pentagon, 540. Hexagon, 720. Septagon, 900. And octagon, 1080. All right, see how those all step up? And 432 is within that as well, which if you pull up the factor 9 grid picture, that kind of shows you all the steps. And that, if you look at the factor 9 grid, they're all multiples of 9. All right, to go up and down the steps, you add 9. Yeah, it's all based on that geometry math. Okay, so that's what Pythagoras did. But then here comes Plato. Right? Plato's like, all right, that's 2D geometry. What about 3D? Which we know, I don't know if you got the familiar, Plato came up with the Platonic solids, right?
My history's not that good.
Yeah,
Pete's a little better at history than
and I do not know that. Nope. So I'm learning all sorts of good stuff right now.
Before researching this, I didn't know it either. But he came up with a 3D system, right? And let's see here. Give me a second.
Well, Pete's got some nice math going over here.
I'm just drawing some stuff out as you're talking here.
Okay.
But
all right. Well, Plato came later, and like I said, he did the 3D, which gave us the Platonic solids.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that if you play tones, the design followed some kind of pattern, right? All right. Now let's take the 3D Platonic solids and let's look at the math. Now, any number that I mentioned on this segment, you'll notice is on this factor 9 grid, which is not purely coincidence, I don't think. Some tend to disagree. But the tetrahedron, all right, 720, you got the cube at 2160, the octahedron at 1440, and the icosahedron, which is 3600, which I never even heard of that before I did the research.
Sure.
All right, so all these numbers are lining up on this grid, and it's weird, right? Well, let's go through some coincidences on this. I apologize, on this number 432, because you got to understand why people grab onto this 432, right?
Yeah, because you're talking to two musicians here, and or myself, actually all of us.
Yeah.
Where I used to be in bands and.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and it's funny because I just grabbed my phone because I'm going to ask it how to tune my guitar at 432 hertz, and what do I have to do to get that to happen?
Well, I mean, if you got a guitar, you can buy, I forget what they call it. What is it, a chronometer or something like that?
Chronometer, or probably like a chromatic tuner probably would be able to do that as well.
Right, yeah. All you do is when you pluck a string, it tones it down. And I believe it's the, if you look on the scale there, it's the A. So you're looking for A to be 432. Mm-hmm. And that's how you tune into the 432. And it's really interesting on, some people say that certain songs, the higher, you can higher it to the 440 and it sounds better. And other songs, you can lower it to the 432 and it sounds better.
Which we're going to take a test shortly on that too, so that's going to be interesting.
Right. Well, let's look at some coincidences, all right? After Plato, he got these Platonic solids, and they got all this math and all these numbers lining up, and what's it all mean, right? Well, later on, the Mayans come up, and they have this calendar, right? And we all know there's 12 months in a year. Well, there's 60 seconds in a minute, 12 months in a year, all this math, right? But let's talk about the diameter of the moon. All right. It's 2,160 miles across.
So about roughly size of the US.
What's that?
It's about roughly the size of the US.
This is US.
What was that? What was that number again, Sharid?
2,160.
Okay.
So we go to the Mayan calendar, look at a couple coincidences. All right, we got 2160, and if you that number on the Mayan calendar is it takes 2,160 Earth years to equal one great year. All right, and that's also the diameter of the moon. All right, now if you divide by that 2160 by 2. You get 1080, which is the octagon. All right. See, now we're coming back to some of the numbers that we recently were just talking about. These were all the coincidences start coming together. All right. If you divide it by 3, you get 720, the hexagon. 4, you get 540, the pentagon. If you divide that 2160 by 5, guess what? You get the 432. All right, and then 6, you get to go down to the square in the circle, 360. So it's all lining up, right? And which brings us to the factor 9 grid. If you pull up the other picture of the factor 9 grid, you'll see all the numbers highlighted that I mentioned.
Oh, sure.
Right? And
The thing that I'm going to say, I'm sure Anders sees it right away
Resolution.
too. Being a video editor, we see the resolution 1080, 2160.
540, 720. Yeah.
I'm sure they got 480.
Oh, right. I didn't even think of that.
Me neither. That's something. So that's also another coincidence.
So I'm sure you're going to get to this, but I'm still having trouble wrapping my mind around. Okay, so what's the point of putting 8 more hertz on that just to with people, man? You know, and to try to control the masses. That's what I'm having difficulty wrapping my head around. That's crazy. Why decide to go to 440? Right. Right.
Well, that all goes back to the conspiracy, and it's left up to you to decide whether it does make a difference. Now, on YouTube, a lot of people have researched this subject, and you could see Cymatics examples, which Cymatics is where, you know, you have a speaker and you put sand down or you use water and it creates geometrical patterns, right?
Okay, sure.
And at 432, based off natural frequencies, it actually forms these geometrical features very precisely, okay? And at 440, just a little bit higher, it's off a little bit. You see that the sand or water's not as defined, the picture's not as defined. And so that's where people say, well, 432 is better. It's more relaxing. It calms you, you know.
Sure, yeah. And it follows and this is what I was kind of looking for. It's that golden ratio, right? And that there's that seashell and how it occurs in nature. It's more in tune with nature. But I get that, and I'm totally gonna like start to really look at the 432 frequency stuff a little more closely. But I'm just wondering why. What's the point of going to 440? What's that? I mean, like.
Well, I'll tell you, modern tuning is based on equal temperament. It's a ratio. It's just so everything is even, right? Everything is coexisting with one another. So that's why they did that. Now, like I mentioned earlier, you know, Tibetan bowls and Native American flutes and even ancient structures all have this math in it, okay? So even frequencies that they use in the past line up with this math, you know, the geometry and this factor 9 grid. It all lines up with this number of 432. And people get hung up on just the number 432 and kind of like revolve it all around that. But it's the whole picture. It's the whole picture of these coincidences. All right. And 432, for some reason, like one thing I found out when I was doing all the shapes and stuff is that 432 doesn't have a shape. Right? Well, 432 pops up in everything else. You know, like I was talking about the 2100, if you divide that by, or if you times that by 2, I believe it comes to 43,200, which is the amount of seconds in nights and day. You know what I mean?
Really?
And it's all
That's insane.
Yeah, it's all off the 1260 math system that was given to the ancient Sumerians with the Anunnaki, you know?
Yep.
It all lines up, but 440 doesn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so yeah, my whole thing is who's the idiot that decided, the jackass that decided to make it 440, and what I mean.
That was that Nazi guy I was telling you about, Joseph Goebbels.
Because it was an attempt to like control population somehow because he didn't want the enlightenment of the 432. Apparently.
Can we do the quiz, Shared? Because I think we should run through that, and then we can see why we see what we prefer.
Well, one thing I want to say, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we can do the quiz now.
Okay, so we got
that'll give people a perspective on the different sound. Maybe they can draw a conclusion from it and see what the difference might be.
Okay, so we got a pen and paper. If you guys got one at home, I'll do this together.
Yep.
So we'll just number them as we go, folks, and say which one you prefer, A or B.
We're gonna start. first one.
That's the first one. We got one more. I'll write your answers down. They do kind of sound a little similar, but yeah, you're gonna get that. So now number 2.
It'll be a little easier if you had like doubly like headphone, like really good headphones.
I'd like to be able to toggle between them, you know?
And you can put the video in the description, but... Okay, now here comes the second one.
Guy's really talented artist.
Those are really close.
Number 3. All right, now number 4.
Finishing off with some Pink Floyd here.
I didn't know. Maybe we'll get flagged on copyrights.
Is Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd.
That was A, now here's B. There's one more or not. Yep, 5. B.
It's hard with these headphones because it distorts a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I had to feather, but
Yeah.
All right, that was it.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out about those, I mean, good luck on your guys' results there. It's really tricky. It's really tricky. But one thing I want to point out and why there's controversy in this conspiracy is because when you play a song, you know, the notes kind of have different pitches and different ranges, right? If you pull up 432 wavelength of one of the notes played, you'll see that 440's in the same band. You know what I mean? And even if you play 440 on the next picture, you'll see that 432 plays in that band. You know what I mean? So you're never getting, with music, you're never getting a pure tone.
It is very subtle, but there is a difference.
Yeah.
And as a musician, I can hear it. So let's go over these results and see how
I'm interested. I'm a little nervous about to see where I came out here.
All right. So what'd you guys get for the first clip? Which one was 440 and which one was 432?
Oh, we did what we preferred.
Yeah, we did what we preferred, like what sounded better to us.
So I'm guessing that would be 432.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was going for. I was trying to pick out 432.
So I've done this once before, but we'll see how it works through these. Number one, I said A.
I said B.
You said B.
I said A.
So what was that? What was...
The B was 432. Yes, the second part.
Oh, yeah. All right.
So we were.
Yep. No, we're
me
good.
and Andrew are 440.
Yeah, it's all that rock and roll music.
Maybe
you guys
we're
played.
used to that 440.
Yeah,
I think
right?
that's what it is.
Yeah, it could be.
Because we got so used to it.
All right, I had number one for this, or A for the second one.
I had B.
I had B.
Look at this.
That's how we were in the same band at one time.
It was A.
Look at that.
I see a trend going here.
Yeah. Okay, what'd you guys have for number three?
B.
B.
I had B as well.
It was A.
Yep. So another 440 for us. So 4.
I had B for 4.
I had B.
B.
Yeah, it was B.
Okay,
Oh,
we
got
got
that
you
one,
guys
right?
got one. All right. And then I had B for 5.
B
B.
for 5 as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nope, it was A.
Oh,
So we
okay.
We're
So,
440.
Yeah,
guys.
we're just used to that.
You're split.
yeah, I'm about 50-50.
Pete's open to a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess, I'm just progressive like that. I'll go with whatever.
And that's one thing you said too, Andrew. Having headphones on will make a difference.
Yeah, I'm
So-
going to re-listen to this at home and see. I was second guessing the second one we heard, though. I almost changed that to B. So
See, to me,
that would have put me heavier on
the 440 ones, because it's obvious more for me. Sound more
the four,
cleaner.
yeah,
like,
they sounded crisper. Like the
Yeah.
other ones for me were crackling just a touch.
Yeah, there's almost a little low-end distortion going on there or something, I thought.
But I do notice a difference because I have this frequency changer on my phone when you listen to music. If I listen to Seether and how it's originally produced, I start to feel a little more aggravated. But when I run it through 432, you start to feel uplifted better. It's weird. It doesn't sound that good,
kidding,
but
yep.
it makes your emotions change. Yep.
I'm going to totally be messing
Line
around
with nature. Yeah, there's actually an Android app. If you have it, I'm sure it's in the Apple phone too, but it's called the 432 player, and it converts all your music. Instead of using your regular music player, you just open the 432 player and you just play each song as 432.
But I'll let you know that those have to be downloaded. You have to bought them because I have a stream. I do Apple Music and I can't run those through that app, so they got to be physically on your phone. So
Really? So
well,
it's not a
Android
free...
users, there's a free player.
the app
So,
the app is free,
got
but
it.
I'm saying that in order to run your music through it, it's got to be on your phone. You can't be a streaming service like Spotify or
Because you're
Oh,
going
but it
through
could be a YouTube video or something like that. Yeah.
No, because I'd be going through another app. It'd have to be something directly on your device.
Yep. That's the only part that sucks about it.
Okay,
Don't
well,
use Spotify or anything.
give
right?
it another
Things,
year.
I don't do it.
Yeah, give it another year or two, and it'll be fixed.
Oh, you
They'll
could
figure
download
out-
a YouTube video and probably
Yeah,
convert
you
it.
Oh,
could do
sure,
that.
right?
Yep,
Yeah,
so
I could do it
a
that
lot
way.
more work and hassle, but it's
Yeah,
fun to
and-
experiment with. And if you guys do it, try see what you feel like in your emotions. Feel how more uplifted you'll feel when you listen to the 432 versus the 440. It's
Yep.
crazy. It makes a difference.
I'm totally going to start trying that. Absolutely.
But like I said, I always vote 440.
Except the one.
Well, see, Dan, you also got to think that we were born before or after 1939. So all the music we've heard growing up has been 440.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
I mean? So our brain is tuned to pick that up.
There's a few Mozart songs that are 432 yet, and that's why that actually affects people's mind.
Oh, yeah. It gives them that spiritual feeling or whatever. That's cool.
One thing I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about the geometrical shapes, the 2D and 3D. Okay, if you add up the angles and then you play them together, it actually plays a perfect 3-part major chord in the F sharp key. So they weren't just numbers that were, you're adding up and throwing out there and it's on that grid. If you play them as a tone, it makes that perfect chord. You know what I mean? So that's something else to think about.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool.
So I thought that was very interesting, and that's why I was kind of throwing out all those numbers. But one thing, here's that surprise I wanted to tell you about.
Oh, that's right. We had a surprise. I forgot about that. All right.
The George Van Tassel technology, he was visited by the aliens, right? He says, and they gave him that formula. Okay, which was, if you remember, Dan, F equals 1 over T.
Yep.
I'm glad you wrote it down.
Frequency equals 1 over time.
Yep.
Now, I was getting into it, but I kind of got confused because of the paperwork. My PowerPoint went down, so I don't have it bulleted like I had it, so I'm back to notebook paper. But if you take some of the math I was saying, which in the Mayan calendar, one great year, which is 25,920 years, on their calendar. Mm-hmm. And you put that for the 1, right? And then time, you'd use the 1260 time method. You put 60. So F equals 25,920 divided by 60. Guess what the answer
432.
Yep.
It's got to be. I didn't even do it. It's got to be.
Oh, you didn't do the math.
No, I didn't. I didn't do the math.
I thought you were that good.
No, I didn't. It has to be 432. That's crazy.
Yep.
Well,
and that's what really shocked me is like all these other coincidences with, if you say diameter of the moon, you get all the shapes, all that stuff and the perfect chords. But that formula right there just so happens to come to 432. I mean, it blew my mind. You know what I mean? So obviously the frequency and technology with the certain frequencies can be incorporated, which I see on the screen now. You got Therify up, which is a new type of technology out where they use plasma and certain frequencies to heal the body, just like George Van Tassel was trying to do.
Yeah, well, I asked earlier about how 432 plays into the dome, and I guessed it. That was awesome. It's like made me feel. I guess the surprise. That was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. It blew me away when I figured that out. Well, when I was researching it and they showed me, I didn't just decide to plug in some numbers.
Oh yeah, right. Yep, sure.
Isn't the Earth resonate at 432, Sharid?
I think it's 5.28.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that?
That was another good frequency I heard.
Resonance is 7.8, which that's where a lot of people are like, oh, there's no 432 correlation, because if you did the math, that it would play, if you went all the way down the scale with a 432, it'd be 8 hertz instead of the 7.8 Schumann resonance. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, I can see what you're saying on that example, but what about all these other examples where these numbers all coexist and all make perfect chords, and studies have show more relaxation and anxiety and depression lowered. You know what I mean? That just all can't be coincidence.
No, it can't. And how it evolves into the shapes and architecture and just how even natural growth when you look at.
Yeah, when we did the George Van Tassel episode, it was amazing when you showed the sand and when you change the frequency, how everything just into the geometric shapes, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's actually a really good YouTube video that shows the correlation. It's like an 8-minute video of just 432 and 440 and the difference of the scale. And you can see how the shape is just more prominent and more developed at 432. So I believe it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Something to keep your ear to the ground about.
Yep. And like I said, try it yourself on music you like. Try the app out and see how you feel. Don't listen to how the music sounds, because like I said, I didn't care for how the 432 sounded when I ran it through there, but I felt better. That's what's weird about it.
Yeah, and that's you know, if it doesn't do anything, no harm, no foul. But if it does do something, you're a fool not to take advantage of it.
The band's Suicide Silence. Let's put that in 432 and see how we feel.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question.
You know, I'm sure there's some music that is a little bit more resistive toward the relaxing feeling, even played at 432.
That band is literally like
all screaming,
breathing in and out, like so like grungy,
like pig squeal type.
Yeah. Okay. Like, oh my god.
You know, something I've been thinking about and really trying to put down on paper. I kind of want to try something. All right, now, and it has to do with these frequencies. If you took bass, all right, I don't know if you've ever been in a car where they have a system and the bass is just bumping, right?
Oh yeah, I got one of those.
Okay, have you ever been, okay, and then when you like say smoke a cigarette and then you blow out the smoke and it literally is vibrating the air and you can see the smoke kind of like freezing a little bit and you can even feel a vibration inside, right? So I was thinking with this George Van Tassel and time travel, which I think time travel is not necessarily going in the past or the future. It's traveling through dimension. I was thinking on if you had your chakras, okay, there's 7 of them, supposedly, you know, you got your 7 chakras and you had a speaker for each chakra, one in front of you and one behind you, and you were in a soundproof room or whatever, and it's bass tone, right? So you take a frequency, the bass, and you, as loud as you can, shoot it at your chakra on each level. Maybe certain frequencies you could vibrate yourself out of this dimension and into another one.
See, this is why you need to be doing something in this field, Sharid, because you come up with these crazy ideas where it's just like they make sense.
Yeah, and
right.
That's I was going to say that's crazy but my question is then, okay, so you succeed in getting yourself into another dimension. Are you stuck there, or do you have to now develop the same sort of thing? And
you got to buy a speaker system and
in that one, in that
440 to get back.
That would be great. That'd be awesome. If you ever
that's the other thing. You got to find the right frequency.
Yeah, right. And if you're ever going to attempt that, you need to let us know because we'd love to get it on video and film. Yeah, so we can.
That's what the UFOs do. They resonate at the frequency. That's how they disappear and tune into a different one.
Sure.
Yeah, they're literally, this is my theory, is they're literally, vibrating into this dimension. So whatever they're using to vibrate, like say, I'm sure you've heard that when UFOs crash and then they go up to it, that there's no controls, that everything's like, it was from their dimension and it like morphed into ours. So when it crashed, literally all that's left is just the craft itself. None of the components are in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had a guest on last week, and that the reason we can start seeing that because those are brain interfaced vehicles.
Yep.
So that's a theory why there wouldn't be controls.
If you have the technology and the vibration, whatever you're using, I believe it goes with you.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Well, if they're brain controls too, they quite possibly could be organic and somehow tuned into that other dimension anyway, so that if for this exact reason, if something goes south, boop, they go back to the other dimension and don't remain here. If it's going to be brain interface, you'd think there'd be something.
Well, you're still thinking that, the ships are living.
Yeah.
Just like they try to show you in the movies. What was the Farscape? That ship was living, and they're trying to push this stuff on the public and get the public acclimated to the idea.
So it would if that's really true, and you can just resonate between dimensions. All of a sudden, they realize something's going bad. It's heading south. Instead of eject thing, it hits a button and boom, hits the frequencies and sends.
They didn't do that at Roswell though, but
no. Sometimes it goes south. And we have triple problems.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to Talk is Cheap, where cheap is talk and talk is cheap, folks. Have a wonderful evening.